Hey guys, Stealth here. Tactical Tuesday, which means the well-known Mudfight map. I'm sorry, but there just aren't that many other tactical games out there. And the servers that are out there are usually very empty unless you drop in with an entire team. The server is not going to look too appealing and it's just not really going to play out. So we're back on Mudfight. And today I'm following Atlas and Sniper Fire, who are going to be taking over the right flank, at least that's the plan in Alpha. Atlas is using a US armor deck, and going towards the right section is a bit of a weird choice. At least it wouldn't be my first choice if you're taking an armor deck, because I, in a way, consider armor decks to horses. Horses need room to gallop. Horses need that long distance fighting. They don't really do well in a forest. So taking this armored cavalry into the forest, including a command tank, might not be the best idea. But we're about to find out if that's actually going to work or not. Sniper Fire is behind him, backing him up with a couple of British units, a couple of FV-432s, 2 Rapiers and 1 Jaguar, presumably with command infantry. Considering it is a tactical, you don't get too many starting points, so this is basically it. We have the Command M1 Abrams, the Chaparral, the M60 A2E1 Starship, and an M2 Bradley IFV with, of course, the autocannon and the AGGM. But it is the base Bradley, which means that, while it's a decent vehicle, it's not stellar. But you do get a couple of those tow missiles. You get 4 of them, and for a 20-point vehicle, they actually do quite a bit of damage, or at least they can do quite a bit of damage. So for now, we're just going to play Tank Simulator and wait for these things to arrive at their target. And I wouldn't be surprised if, once more, this tank is going to have trouble taking the crossroads. Yep. No, he's not even taking the crossroads. He's going directly towards the tree line that is ahead of him to make sure that he doesn't go over the road. Because, as I'm not sure who it was, but somebody once wrote, roads are a fantastic place to get ambushed. Now that is maybe not so much true for Wargame Red Dragon, at least not this road just yet. But this road, especially if they see a Command M1 going that way, is quite dangerous indeed. And that's why they're taking, let's say, the long way through. And trust me, this is going to take a long time, because now you're no longer relying on that 110 km road speed, but you're relying on 75 kph off-road speed. That would be the case if it wasn't for the fact that you're going through a forest. And forests, of course, slow down tanks. And not just tanks, all sorts of units. Even the Bradley is struggling. And the absolute last thing that you want to put through a forest is one of those British AA pieces. At 35 kph off-road speed, normally, they are quite slow. Put them through a forest, give them low autonomy of about 500, and you're going to find that they might not really be going where you want to go very quickly. Someone's putting down an attack marker. What is this shit? I suppose that he wasn't happy about these guys going through the forest instead of taking the shortest route and making sure that they get to their target fast. So Atlas is saying the smart thing to do and not the suicidal thing to do, which is absolutely what I agree with. And Shaft is saying, well, you'll see. So let's have a look. Will we see? Here's another problem with the Abrams or any kind of armor vehicle that you use over here. And yes, I know that a while ago I used a Nanayon Shiki G, one of those Japanese grenade launcher tanks. And I used them pretty much exactly in the same way. The thing is, my tank was worth, what, 60 points at best? This tank is worth 160 points. This tank does not have a grenade launcher. This tank can get taken down quite easily by infantry. And if you want to take down a tank, this is the perfect way to do it. You just make sure you get some infantry, move it across from tree line to tree line, and all of a sudden that Command Abrams is going to have all sorts of infantry trouble sneaking up on it. For now he's just trying to get to the edge of the forest. And without really considerable recon, this thing is going to be basically waiting for something to find it. Which, trust me, sooner will happen rather than later. Sniper Fire's units are still getting into position. Chaparral is almost at its destination. The British units are starting to move into position, but oh god. These British things, I don't know. The AA system itself is not terrible, but at least put it on a different platform, because the platform is atrocious. Command Abram is getting engaged, doing some damage to Spetsnaz and BMP-3s here. The BMP-3 again would not really be my preference, because those Arcan missiles have a range of 2800. But in a situation like this, they might as well have a range of 1500, because you're not going to get much more out of them than that. Most of these guys are getting destroyed. The BMP almost hit the starship there. You can see these things are actually quite survivable, as they need 2 shots from the Command M1 or any other tank to go down. Starship is pushing forward. Now the reason that he picked a starship is because it has 5 HE damage. The Command M1 only has 3. If you fire at infantry with one of these 5 HE guns or cannons, they're gonna notice. They are really gonna notice. They're gonna take a lot of damage. Bomber came in, all the AA platforms fired at it, and all 3 of them missed until the last missile. That's when this tractor Pier FSA actually managed to get a hit. Modstroke 90 are pushing up. Now, Atlas is pushing his tank forward, trying to get that 5 HE gun to work. Watch that. Boom. That's a quarter of your infantry gone. That was the Command M1 joining into the fight. And these guys are not going to go anywhere fast. But his buddies, or their buddies, have already made it across. The type of infantry is not quite known, but considering the level of veterancy, which is elite, you may want to get worried. Talking about getting worried, we have a very, very unusual contender showing up here. The T-72 M2 Moderna. I'm not exactly sure why that's the vehicle that's being used here. I would never take a Moderna into a tree line like this, although I have considered it. And the Moderna, of course, has absolutely no trouble taking out the command tank, causing Greg to lose pretty much all of his units, save for the AA unit. And the Fusiliers from Sniper are currently getting chewed up not only by the autocannon, but also by the infantrymen that are closing on them from the flank. So now Atlas is down to his last unit, which is just the Chaparral. He probably can bring in some new units, but it's going to take a while before they arrive, especially if you want to take that entire route through the forest again. As for the other sections of the map, the middle seems to be relatively well defended, save for any kind of anti-tank weapon. You can see that the Navy SEALs from Pilot Candyman are actually spotting the T-80 UK, but have no way of taking it down. And any kind of ATGM vehicle might work, but then there's the Nighthawk from Tommy. Comes in, drops the bombs, splash, no more command tank. Good kill. Very expensive. That guy must not have been happy. Admiral Spey is asking, what the fuck? Why is there some Moderna here? Well, your bet's as good as mine. I don't know. As for the left flank of the map, it seems that these guys are slightly under-armored, as they may have had a tank here. And I'm seeing, what's that, a stalwart? Yeah, probably. I'm seeing a stalwart here, I'm seeing more resupplies, but I'm not actually seeing any tanks. So these recon units, as well as a couple of transports, are just happily sitting there. Not exactly sure why. The only way that you could get a hit on these transports is by using the cavalry scout weapon, which, well, let's face it, isn't really that likely to happen. Even got some Spetsnaz GRU moving up, so it seems that there's a lot of contacts. And just no way to shoot at them. Over towards the right, the infantry, the Spetsnaz and the Spetsnaz GRU have been able to push the entire British line out of place. There's one lonely group of Fusiliers 90 surviving here. And they're probably going to try and find the CV. The AA units are being pulled back, and that's when they run out of fuel. These things have an autonomy that's pretty good at, well, okay, let's call it medium at 410. And that's Chaparral. The Rapier has 500, but its terrible off-road speed means that you're not going to get too much out of that 500. Now, be sure to correct me if I'm wrong, but the way that I understand this is that the autonomy is not actually the distance that the vehicle can go. It's the amount of seconds that the vehicle can move. So if you have an autonomy of 500 and you only use that vehicle on roads, then you're going to get the most distance out of it. If you tell that thing to move for 500 seconds at 35 kph, then all of a sudden that autonomy or that distance that it can travel is not really looking that impressive. Now again, this is something I picked up a long time ago. I'm not sure if it's accurate, and if it's not, feel free to confirm or correct me. Looks like Atlas is a bit unhappy about Wolf's play here. Missile goes in and kills him. Good kill from the Bradley M3A2. And Atlas himself is now bringing in a Hemet. Now, at least these things have some ability and autonomy. These things are pretty nice off-road supply trucks at 100 kph. Road speed, of course, being wheeled is 150. And, of course, considering it's Wargame, you don't have to do a zigzag pattern through these woods. You can just go through any kind of tree that you might like. So they're slowly but steadily catching up to the AA units. And once there, they're going to resupply all of these units, including the Pinsgauer. And this thing has an autonomy of almost 700, and even this one's going out of fuel. So the Hemet is really heavily required there. Blue 4 and Red 4, as far as points go, are not too far apart. They're only sitting at 945 and currently 1005, so Red 4 has gained a few points, but the distance or the gap between their points is really very small, and this game can still go anywhere. And if you're looking at the game in, usually at this point you may go, well, I'm not sure who's going to win. And it usually, at least in my experience, is the team that seems to have the most terrain. The team that has alpha, or at least has the higher amount of income. And you may say, well, yeah, it's tactical, you're not going to have a lot of income. True, you're not going to have a lot of income. However, all the income matters. So even if you have alpha and you divide that over 10 people, or a 9, because I believe Pilot Candyman left. Even if you divide that over 9 people, then it still helps. It's still a little bit better than not having alpha. And having that alpha sector means that you can field more reinforcements. Which, of course, means more power, more pressure to push onto the enemy. And finally get them out of the way. The game seems to be a bit quiet at the moment. Units are just reinforcing existing positions. We have some new units being brought in. Mostly cheap stuff here. I'm not sure why you'd want to go with an M551 A1. At 10 points they are very cheap. And that means that you can pretty quickly break even with this unit. So kill 10 points or more. But the gun at 1750 meters is really not that good. It means that any tank will outrange you, maybe short of the T-34-85, and I wouldn't be surprised if even that one will get you before you get him. Accuracy for a 10-point unit is not bad, at 40%. Armor penetration is 8, and considering that this is only a 76mm gun, you're looking at an HE damage of only 2. So the damage that this thing outputs as far as anti-infantry firepower is really not very good. If that would get made up by the rate of fire, then okay, we could at least talk about that, but no. Rate of fire is 8 rounds a minute. But to be fair, I suppose that for a unit from 1969, that is not terrible. You could be doing much worse. Now reinforcements have arrived on the right flank from ITAC and Tommy 00001. He has a couple of Marines here, we see some Delta Force. And this looks like a couple of BTR-90s, and there's the Moderna. You do not want to push into these guys with all of the infantry. So we're gonna have to We're gonna have to wait for some sort of assistance to come in here. US Marines would not be my first choice to take down the Moderna, but they would be my first choice if you want to clear out the forest and you have a US deck. But don't we have something else that can help? Yeah, I think so. The Nighthawk. It already killed one super heavy. We might as well make it a double. Moderna, you're about to be in trouble. No more Moderna. That means that these guys are now panicked due to the blast area that they were in. One of them is panicked, the other one's worried. Meaning that they are still very, very dangerous units, but at least they're going to have a little bit less difficulty taking them down. Considering their rate of fire and accuracy seems to drop a little bit. And taking them down will also require you to go through this BTR, which is, unlike the others, not panicked. So Tommy's considering going for it, and he's instantly regretting that decision, as these BTR 90s, the OT-64A, and even some new units of infantry, seemingly with a sniper rifle, are instantly hammering away at the US Marines. Whereas there was a squad of 15 guys a moment ago, there's now a squad of 3 guys. And Tommy is now cursing at iTech over here for pushing his deltas away. He needs delta close, because if there is going to be a follow-up, then you need the US Marines saved. Considering that they're a 30-point infantry unit, you want to keep them alive. The Chaparral finally is being brought forward again, but without any kind of air threat. There's not really that much that it has to do at the moment. So he's pushing it forward in order not to lose these Delta forces, and unfortunately the Marines were too late, but they didn't get killed by an airstrike anyway. But you can at least put pressure on the enemy here, and if they do decide to go in with an aircraft, you can still kill it. Schuft now has a Rafale CF1 on standby. I'm not sure why, because I haven't really seen that many airstrikes. I only saw one. And it seems that on the left flank they have a bit of an issue. There is a PT-91 Twardy moving around. There it is. I'm just not sure if this thing has enough recon to go around all on its own. I wouldn't be surprised. Yep, there we go. They're not stupid. Some people send out a Twardy all on oneself. That's usually not very clever, as it's a beautiful and very, very large target. So Spectre here, not to be confused with Spect. Spectre has also pushed in some recon infantry. And yep, Blue is already responding. Are we going to send the Nighthawk? Yep. We're going to send the Nighthawk. Let's look at this one from the perspective of the Twardy. I think he sees what's coming, or at least he might have a tingling of, oh crap, I'm being targeted by laser-guided bombs. I had better get into the tree line. No, says the Nighthawk, you're going nowhere. Bombs come in, hit it in the rear, and that's the third super heavy that Nighthawk has taken down. So it should be pretty easy to distinguish which player was it that was using the Nighthawk. Tommy. At 755 points, he got the only score that's capable of holding 3 super heavies. And he's actually doing quite nice there. Judging by the amount of damage that he's done, he has pretty much half the damage of the team done all by himself, just by killing those super heavies. And it being a tactical means that it's going to be very, very hard to come back from that for Red 4. You can get another super heavy if the match lasts long enough, but let's face it, that's not really that likely to happen. Navy SEALs from Tommy here are in a bit of a difficult spot. They're taking a lot of fire from a BMP-3. There's some other vehicles firing at them. Let's see if we can identify that before it goes away. Yep, looks like a tank. I'd say that's a T-62. Of unknown origin. T-62 MV with the Arcan, of course. Yep, that would make sense. The right flank seems to be going, well, back and forth a lot. Sniper fire is pushing in some more of his Fusiliers. In the meanwhile, the Spetsnaz are taking the other way around. And I wouldn't be surprised if these guys didn't even get close enough to shake hands. Because they could be walking around, and the Fusiliers probably took the shortest route possible, so staying closest to the edge of the tree line here, meaning that these guys never even saw each other. Here comes another airstrike. Let's hope that finally these AA platforms can actually do something useful. There's the 163 CS, and there's a dead aircraft. Finally another kill. So Red 4 puts up a marker says AA. It's not entirely inaccurate, but a 163 is technically not an AA gun. Technically it's a fire support vehicle, and it's there to support the infantry with the Vulcan. Which, I gotta say, it can do remarkably well, provided it doesn't run out of fuel before it gets there. Now the left flank was being pushed by a super heavy. That is no longer the case. And let me just have a look at the units that are over here, because then you can see just how much of bluff poker these guys are usually playing with each other. Red 4 is probably assuming that Blue 4 has quite some heavy firepower here. They don't. Blue 4 only has a couple of riflemen 90, some cavalry scouts, some rangers, a Bradley, and that's it. Blue 4 might be assuming that Red 4 has a lot of very dangerous units over here, and they'd be wrong. Because Red 4 only has a couple of AA units, all of which are very easy pickings. There's even a Tunguska M over there, and this is where that M551 A1 might actually come in useful and kill some stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if they could get away with that. And if you can kill a Sopel, coming in at 45 points, you immediately have a 4.5 times markup. Just make sure you park this thing before you fire, because the stabilizer of 10% is not really going to perform as advertised. You can see that even though this tank hasn't been driving that far down the road, it is already running into fuel issues. Scorpion is a different sort of platform. It has more arm penetration, less accuracy, better range, better off-road speed, and the autonomy of about 3.5 times the one that we're seeing on the M41. Doing a bit of a donut there, I'm not sure what they spotted. But for some reason they're pulling away, even though they could roll this entire flank just with these two cheap units. We're getting a help marker here from Raging. Raging is, I believe, a Blue 4 guy. Yep, he's the M2A2 player here. Spetsnaz Gru are coming in against the rifleman. If this Bradley pushes forward too much, it might run into the Gru firing back at it with the RPG, which is in fact what's happening, and there's the kill. This is again, yep, Raging. I suppose he rage quitted, living up to his nickname as far as that goes. There's really not that much that you can do with a Bradley up close. A Bradley has great range, so keep it at range. At this short range, it's not going to be that effective. It's going to get taken down very, very easily. Sniper fire, in the meanwhile, is getting into some engagements. We're seeing Fusiliers go up against Gongbopyongs here. If these guys get to use those recoilless rifles, which fortunately they don't, considering they're not HE values. But these, I'm not sure who's going to win this, but I would not say it's the Fusiliers. I'd say that these guys, considering they're also standing still and not having to rely on firing their weapon over their shoulder as they're running away, I'd say that these guys would win. Whereas the Fusiliers could pretty easily take these guys down, except that the Gongbopyongs are shock troops. So, no more Fusiliers. The other group from Sniper Fire with the other group of Fusiliers, I'm not sure where he's headed. But they seem to be taking the long way around, possibly hoping to get all the way to the cap. Which, let's be honest, they could just walk into. They could kill the UAZ, provided that they can make it all the way there. Let's see how Atlas is doing in the meanwhile. Atlas is bringing in a new vehicle. This is the M551 ACAV. It's not the prettiest tank I've ever seen, but in a situation like this it can perform pretty well. The ACAV has an M81 152mm heat round firing gun, does 5 HE damage, And that for 30 points makes it a rather effective anti-infantry platform. It, however, does not do too well against other tanks. Its accuracy against tanks leaves a little bit to be desired, and the accuracy on the move, well, a 20% stabilizer, it's not really going to do that well. We got a new group of rangers coming in from Tommy, trying to spot whatever might be threatening them here. Looks like they have spotted a Strela, just not sure which type of Strela at the moment. They also have another M551 A1. And for now, this tank is just sitting there. To be sure, this is the recon variant. The other one would be the M551. And this is what they do. They kill infantry. Mr. Beach Towel is about to throw in the towel with his Rosetkas. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just could not resist that. Too easy. The tank has done its damage. It's pulling back in order to make sure that it does not get hit by the AGGM, because we can assume that the T62 MV is in fact still there. And it is there, it just does not quite have the range, or possibly does not have the optics to spot this unit. And of course the tank itself will not have the optics to spot this guy, but this companions might. Aircraft coming in. I'm going to see if the Rafale will take that down. They do know it's there, and they're maneuvering over friendly airspace to try and get it. Rafale fired first missile, 2 missiles, there we go. Not the kill by the Rafale, or at least I don't think so. I think that sniper fire may have gotten that. Now we're going to see this thing do this dance a lot. The 551 has a pretty damn good off-road speed for a tank. It's 70 kph. It puts it right up there with some of the highest vehicle off-road speeds for mechanized units, especially tanks. He's darting in and out of cover every single time very quickly to try and spot something. If he can hit something, take the shot. If not, pull right back. He is relying on the rangers from Tommy's here over in the tree line to try and spot targets for him. I guess these guys turned into aircraft spotters. What are you doing? I don't know. They're still here, next to a destroyed, I'd say... God, what is that? Is that a VAB? VAB with an autocannon, maybe? There's another destroyed M551 A1. Anyway, back to the ACAV. Of course, here's the Nighthawk again, and no more tank. That Nighthawk is so bloody efficient. With the tank dead, the ACAV can now more effectively and more safely push out. Let's see if it's actually going to do that. This driver must be going, Commander, what the fuck are you doing? Making me drive out and back and out and back. Whoa, that was a short blast over here from seemingly an anti-air missile. That probably was the Strela doing that. Now I lost the tank. Ah, there you are. Again, pushing out and darting back into cover. Well, I think we've seen quite enough of that. Over towards the right, there is more infantry now. And I think that they have Red 4 on the run. Over on the left, Red 4 has Blue 4 on the run. And Blue 4's flank is incredibly weak at this stage. There's just one group of rangers, and that's all that there is over here to defend this flank. Because let's face it, an M42 AAG, I wouldn't put my money on it. Let's put it that way. They're taking a bit of artillery fire, but nothing too serious. Now you may be thinking, why is this thing not being resupplied? Well, it's because Tommy has only spare parts turned on. He does not want to resupply any of the other units yet. He's only there to resupply his rangers. And I get that. It's a 10v10 tactical. You want to resupply especially higher priced units like this first, before the 551 says thank you very much and drains the entire tank, because it needs a bit of a fill up. Here we go, 551 getting ready to fire. Unfortunately, as mentioned, accuracy leaves a bit on the low end. There's a kill for only 5 points. The MP3 seems to be trying to track the ACAV with its missile. No, it's tracking something else. And it just blew up a... Waiting for the smoke to clear. Waiting for the bush to go away. No idea. That thing was so well concealed that I cannot see it. That is new. Seriously, it's like the unit just disappeared entirely. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The BMP-3 should be out of missiles at this stage, considering the amount of missiles he's been firing at or near this area. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of missiles, but there we go. He's rearming his missiles at the moment. And we have some more transports coming in, getting hit by the 551. 551 immediately ducks back into cover because it's taking fire from the AGGMs. The AGGMs are pretty much 50-50 at this point. That's the second missile they wasted. There's the recon. You want to get that recon first, or it's going to get you indirectly through fire from the BMP-3. It hits the BMP-3 but does not do enough damage. Autocannon fire is coming in. Come on, hit him again. There we go. No more BMP. 35 points gained, which is already more than the price point for the ACAV, killed in one unit. The accuracy is pretty quickly going up as the command, or as the target is getting closer. And let's see if they can nail this VDV with one shot. That would be very nice to see. Firing, nope, 40% accuracy. These guys are getting worried, which does absolutely impact the amount of accuracy that they can still put up. And you can see that they accuracy isn't the only thing he needs to start worrying about. He is also starting to run out of ammo. He only has 3 heat rounds left. And with 3 heat rounds left, you're going to have to really pick your targets. In the meanwhile, Tommy is using some units that you don't see very often. These are the Humvee Mark 19s with a Mark 19 grenade launcher. And considering how deep they can get into enemy territory, I'd say that Red 4 has pretty much abandoned this flank. Whoa, or not. What was that? That was a frickin' MTLBV? Or something like it? Oh, come on, tell me those units survived. No? No. Both died. Beautiful. Okay. Both of them died. Well, it was nice as long as it lasted. And it was the command vehicle of all things that seems to have killed them. Unless we got a sudden death here. I'm not sure. But this thing did not fire any... Ah, there we go. It fired its T-21 Tarasnice, something like that. That's what killed the vehicle. I thought it was going to be the machine gun, but no, it was the... What's that? Recoilless rifle gun, I think. And just look at how weak Blue 4 is over here. They finally get reinforcements from an MBT-70. But other than that, there's really not that much that they have out here. Over towards the right, both sides have heavily repopulated this forest. Fusiliers are here, but the Fusiliers from Sniper are still going strong. They are almost at the other side of the map. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to wreak all sorts of havoc over there. Over towards the right, Wolf is asking if anyone has napalm. I'm not sure why you'd need napalm specifically at this point, but okay. Wolf is pushing across with some SAS. And over here we have a couple of helos, which are not dropping off infantry. I think they already did that. That's probably the Spetsnaz GRU that we're seeing there. That would also mean that this one is elite. Nope, this one has been dropping off other infantry probably. If these guys run into the SAS, that's going to be an interesting skirmish. The SAS, of course, with their stingers can shoot down helicopters, but they cannot do enough damage to shoot down all of these. Meaning that they should prioritize the Mi-24. This thing has a Yak-B, and the Yak-B is very, very deadly to infantry. The Mi-8s, by contrast, can only fire rocket pods, meaning they have to physically orient the helicopter at the target, and unless they can do that, they're not actually going to do any damage. Let's see how Atlas is doing. All the way up there. He still has the ACAV. The ACAV is being resupplied by the Hammett over there. So he's now getting ready to use it again, finding whatever target they can get. But look at that. There's another Super Heavy. I believe this is Super Heavy number 4. At least that I know of. It is pushing away. And I wouldn't be surprised... Well, it might be on stand down or Tommy's doing something else. But the Nighthawk is probably going to come in again and do a repeat performance on how to kill a Super Heavy tank. Which it has been doing so incredibly effective until now. Let's see if Atlas has nailed units. No, not at the moment. The SAS are seeing the helicopters, they just don't have anything to do with it. They are not going to pick that fight. Red 4 now has a PU circling as well. Seemingly doing a quick sweep of the area, seeing if Blue 4 has any aircraft up. Not so much. So it's being evac'd right away. You can get away with keeping a PU circling the entire time, but it's not something that I prefer doing. Because even while a PU has a really nice time over target, or TOT that you can see at the bottom of the screen, it does mean that you might be refueling at the exact moment when you want to be firing. Shaft is coming in with a Jaguar, trying to find any kind of active radar IA, and there we go, there's the PU, instantly killing off the Jaguar. This is something that, I'm not going to say it's heartbreaking, but it sucks about tactical. The Jaguar is somewhere in the range of 80 to 100 points. Considering you get 1 point of income for every couple of seconds, it must have taken a long time to finally make your way up to a Jaguar, only to get it shot down in one go. That's something, of course, that if you've played tactical, you've probably been on the receiving and the giving end of. And, well, it just sucks. Because then you can sit waiting for another couple of minutes, seeing what other people are doing before you can actually bring in another unit. Blue 4 by now is seemingly winning on points. And with just 7 minutes left on the replay, I don't see how we're going to get any kind of quick victory out of this. Short of these Fusiliers finally are making their way into the cap. Where the fuck are you heading, Sniper? What are you hoping to kill? Oh, he might be hoping to go across. Thing is, if you do that, you're going to capture a Euro and they're going to know you're there. Call it my preference, but if you want to cross this road, I would not do it at their spawn point. This is where units spawn. If you cross over here and something spawns right on top of you, there we go, you are very likely to die. If you move your infantry here and use this little bit of tree line, which still counts as dense farmland, then I'm not sure why you would want to farm that, but okay. You can use the concealment there up to the last possible second, then you sprint to the other side, insofar as the infantry will sprint, and that's how you can get across, at least in my opinion, in the safest possible way. But for now, they seem to be making their way across. They don't have their weapons active to not give their position away, but it seems that they have damaged something, and they are elite. Meaning they probably killed a command vehicle or something of the likes, because you need to kill something pretty expensive in order to level up the Fusiliers. They are getting across safely. Yep, they made it. No enemy targets. Where is the T-80? Did it die already? Yeah, I think so. T-80UM is no longer with us. Nope, it is gone. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the 4th Super Heavy that Tommy nailed. And with that, Tommy has currently 1/3 of the points from this team. Look at that score. Hats has surrendered. I believe that NBST just surrendered. And they seem to be realizing that the game is about to be up, with a point difference of about 1100 points at this stage. Red 4 is really not doing very well. Oh wow, you can use an M42. Oh dear, look at that. 8% of accuracy. 8! Bloody hell. It did kill the infantry, it did level up, and now its accuracy is up to a whole of nothing. Oh, this poor thing. This poor thing. That's what you get for using an AA gun from World War II against technology that, well, isn't particularly modern, but it's 1982. So it has about 30, maybe 40 years on you. Red 4 is pushing out with Urals, of all things. And they are being immediately donated to Tommy. That's when Brazzers surrenders. Interesting nickname, by the way. So I believe we have Brazzers away, we have Hats away, we have NBST. I'm not sure about the other guys. And of course, it doesn't really show that in a replay file. Let's see how Atlas is doing. He should be able to bring in a new unit at this point. But for some reason, I'm just not seeing any. Arrowman 2005 is pushing in with a couple of Specialny Jetnotki. He's running right into Sniper Fire's Fusiliers, and the Specialny Jetnotki are panicked. But let me emphasize, if you have infantry of this level and you're fighting them off with Fusiliers, push in every single vehicle you have. All of these transports could have been used to suppress and damage the infantry. The Challenger Marksman, of course, will do that job just fine, but these vehicles were just sitting there idly watching as their Fusiliers died. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Be sure to help out your infantry, because even if you lose this, it's not that much of a loss at 15 points, but it does mean that someone else is going to have to pick up the slack, send out yet another infantry unit, and retake this terrain. The Fusiliers, at this point, have been ambushing some units. They've fired off 3 more of their Law 80. Boss has left the game. So that's another Red 4 down. It seems that Red 4 is doing a bit of a desperate push here. You can see Spatsnaz coming forward, VDV, MTLBV, Concours. Bloody hell, they're doing a push with everything. But the only thing that they're actually getting by this is a huge list of losses. As you can see, Blue 4 has just gone up to 2,000 points more than Red. Even Sea Darkcraft are now flying right into pretty much Bravo. I wouldn't be surprised if we can see the Rafale come in to join us very quickly. Come on, Rafale. These are 2 very easy, very tasty targets. No? Chaparral is not a stabilized unit, so it cannot fire on the move. Even the Chaparral could very quickly pick off these things. And considering it's not radar guided, it means that it won't get targeted by the seed. There's the shot. Hitting the Sea Darkcraft. Chaparral fires again, misses. And it's out of range. But it's coming back. Super Tandar is coming in with a gun run, stunning this one. Chaparral takes it out. 80 points. Thank you very much. That was more than the vehicle has cost us so far. Also an M1 pushing in. Probably mostly to get at least some of these kills. There's another 55 point kills thanks to Chaparral. And this is just a cleanup crew here. Chaparral fires again after it's reloaded. I believe this thing fires in pockets of 4 missiles, after which it's going to spend a little bit of time reloading. It's aiming, there we go, first missile is away. Second missile is away. Curious, by the way, I never actually looked at it this way, but you know that when you have the Apache longbow and you fire Hellfires, the Hellfires actually get off the rack, they're no longer there. You'd say that the game would have the same mechanic for the Chaparral, but it doesn't. This thing fired 2 more missiles and it still has all 4. Maybe this thing only registers as not having enough missiles once it fired, let's say, the last couple of them. Let's see if this actually works out. if we still have enough time and enough helicopters to kill. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't. There's the Nighthawk. Big shout out to Pilot Willis in this Nighthawk. Yep, a little bit of aerial acrobatics there. Don't tell me you're going to drop this thing onto a Tetra. I will be very annoyed if you do so. Nope, he's going for a CV. Yet another kill for the Nighthawk. Look at that. Boom. Beautiful. And there's the game. Atlas has scored 910 points, losing 270. Sniper Fire 695, losing 290. And look at Tommy. This guy took out so many of the enemy super heavies that this was a massive contribution to his team. This really helped them out. As for the kill list, you can see the Command M1 Abrams got a few kills and unfortunately did not live up to his 160 point price tag. You could argue, well, you need a CV anyway, and at least this way you got some value out of it. Yeah, I suppose you could say that. The Starship died very, very prematurely, only killing one group of Spetsnaz. M113A1 Dragon killed an OT-64 and nothing else. The ACAV actually got quite a nice amount of kills here. Rozvetka's BMP-3, to which it almost died. Spetsnaz, 2 command vehicles and a couple of transports and some VDV. The Chaparral finally killed a couple of aircraft. The other Chaparral that was in the game the entire time did not kill anything. May have damaged something, but you don't know that. Alright, so that's it for today's Tactical Tuesday. If you have any great tactical games, be sure to send them in, because I'm always looking for great tactical gameplays. If you get any tactical map going on another map other than Mudfight, then bonus points to you, because Mudfight seems to be the only thing that's getting played. So any other map will be much, much appreciated. Thank you for watching. I hope you had fun. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments, and otherwise I'll be seeing you soon for the next video.